my good friend, Richard Ottinger, is also Republican candidate, 6th District, that's Eastern Shore, parts of Norfolk, 1 precinct in Virginia Beach, Matthews County, trying to knock off incumbent, the Democrat Linwood Lewis. I have him on again because I've got this race tightening. I've got right now Linwood up by 3. So this thing could be the sleeper of the night. Richard, what do you think?
I think it is. We are making up ground fast.
So outline. By the way, I'm live Tuesday at Charlie's American Cafe on Granby Street. Are you going to be able to stop by?
Absolutely. Going to try to bring my whole family.
Now, which area is that?
That's Riverview, within sight of the Granby Street Bridge.
Okay, that's the Riverview area. We're going to be there live 6 to 10. Now, let's get to brass tacks, okay? What are the 3 most compelling differences between yourself and Senator Lewis?
Number one, I've got a real vision for expanding the economy here in Hampton Roads. I've got a real plan to reform the education schools here, and I've got a real backbone. I'm going to get up there and fight. What we've got there now is a career politician, a backbencher, somebody who's along for the ride and hasn't accomplished anything in 12 years in Richmond.
So, obviously, if you were to win, the Republicans would stay in control of the Senate, right? There's absolutely no question about that. A victory there would do. How are you guys going to solve some of the real issues now facing Virginia? You've got Terry McAuliffe trying to raise tolls on I-66 by $17. You've got this big push now to control firearm sales. What would your presence in the Senate, how would things be different?
Well, I mean, it creates a stronger firewall. When we were 2020, obviously the lieutenant governor breaks ties, Democrat, tie goes to the Democrats. We were able to pick up an extra seat when all that mess happened out in Southwest, but we still only had a one-person majority, and that's tenuous. So with a stronger firewall, with 23, potentially 24 Republicans, we've got a mandate in some sense. And Terry McAuliffe will soon be, if he's not already, a lame duck. He's in the second half of his term, and he is not going to accomplish anything that he wants in terms of pushing his Obama agenda.
How do you stand on tolls?
Tolls is a difficult issue. They are, in my view, one of the least efficient ways to collect revenue to pay for roads. They increase the barriers between communities. They encourage divisiveness within the regions. I am not a fan of tolls, that's for sure.
So would you be opposed to tolls in any circumstance, Richard?
I don't want to say absolutely not. I want to keep an open mind, but I do not think that they are an efficient way to pay for roads. If there's an alternative that does not involve a tax increase, I want to look at that alternative.
All right, let's get to guns. The Governor McAuliffe, has proposed what he says is just some common sense gun legislation. And let me get to 2 of it. One is that they want to close the loophole on being able to buy a gun at a gun show without doing a background check. Now, we have background checks, obviously. You go in to buy one, you got to fill paperwork out, and you want to be sure your guns aren't being sold to somebody that has a mental disorder or a felon or a restraining order. So there's a background check. Everybody's in favor of that. But you go to one of these shows, you just walk in there, plump down $500, buy anything you want. A lot of people are saying, this is a common sense way to be able to ensure that guns are not blatantly falling in the hands of the wrong people, because they can just go into the Hampton gun show. They could be, have any kind of a mental disorder. They can have a restraining order. They could be an ex-felon. They could be a sex offender. They could be anybody. Just put down their ID and buy it. Why is not closing that loophole? Why is that not a sensible move?
John, there's an absolute misperception about what happens at gun shows. Every single gun sold by a dealer, regardless of whether it's at a gun show or in the gun shop down the street, every buyer goes through a background check. That is just the law. It happens every single time, gun show or not. What they're talking about are individual-to-individual sales, which are in the vast minority of sales of guns in the Commonwealth. And what we're talking about is, for example, a widow whose husband had a couple of shotguns. She wants to sell those shotguns to a neighbor down the street. Does she then have to get a license? Does she have to jump through the hoops to become a dealer and run a background check on her neighbor? That's what we're talking about. It's in a vast minority of the transactions. There's no evidence that those guns play any significant role whatsoever in crime rates in the Commonwealth. And what we're doing is we're infringing on people's rights to obtain weapons of their choice.
Well, why wouldn't you just have it where that widow would have to sell her guns, if she so chose to sell them, to a licensed gun owner who would then, to resell them, would have to go through the whole background check process? What would be so bad about that?
Yeah, we're just adding in layers of bureaucracy, John. It's just, in my view, it is a solution in search of a problem.
Now, what about this other thing that the Democrats are saying, where you go in, you apply for, you do the background check, and if they don't get back to you within a certain amount of time, then it's as if you got cleared on it, but you might not be cleared. What about that loophole?
John, that to me is also a false argument. If you don't get back the information, then that to me suggests that nothing came up. The ability to check information today almost instantaneously it's an absolute almost. So I think that's just a red herring.
Red light cameras. You've got a couple of colleagues that are going to be pushing hard in 2016 for a state ban on red light cameras. They've got evidence saying that a lot of these cameras haven't saved any accidents. They're not. They don't have anything to do with safety at all. That they're just basically an ATM machine for counties and city municipal governments. Do you have a stand on that?
I'm opposed to them. To me, that's just more Big Brother government. That to me strikes of liberal big government, and that's not where we need to go.
So if it came through a committee that you were on, you would be in favor of just the state banning them in their entirety?
Yeah, I would.
You know, and I tell you the other thing, I do think that's got legs, because I think people are getting really aggravated by these. You know, when red light cameras started, Richard, they were in high traffic areas where you had accidents and big intersections, and now they're everywhere. I mean, I live in Chesapeake, Virginia. I can't go down a side street without a red light camera on it. So they're not there for safety reasons. They're just there, and they're getting millions of dollars off it now. Plus, you've got the lobbyists that sell the cameras that are funding the candidates, so the whole thing's a mess. Okay, final issue. What if you were to get elected, and I had you on in June, and I said, Richard, give me as a freshman, give me your number one accomplishment. How did you make a difference in Richmond? What would your answer be?
My answer would be that I paid significant attention to the funding mechanisms for education, that I was able to ensure that sufficient dollars made it into the classroom in every single school district in the Commonwealth. And what that means is at least 65% of the education dollars in every district make it into the classroom, which means teacher salaries, books, computers, the things that really matter when it comes to educating our kids.